Hey, welcome back to the channel. It's me, Eva, helping you create the sustainable wardrobe you have always wanted. Today, I wanted to talk to you about silk. Recently, someone I know asked me, Eva, do you know of any alternatives to silk, any more sustainable alternatives, because I don't actually want to use raw materials anymore. And I thought, okay, I'm gonna have a look. I know a few things, but it is slim picking, so I just wanted to see whether I could find any more things that I can help with. And with it being Secondhand September still, I wanted to also share with you, because there are different ways in which you could use more sustainable or ethical rather resources when it comes to silk. One of them is secondhand, and we'll delve into it in a moment. Before we continue, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, be sure to subscribe. And if you like this video and if you find a value, give it a thumbs up. It helps me with the YouTube algorithm because my channel is really small and I really want more people to be able to see the things that I share with you. The most obvious thing is the first thing that I'm going to share, which is do not use a new silk at all. And that is using vintage silk. Now, vintage silk can be considered more ethical because no new resources were used. And if you are confused and if you didn't know, silk usually requires for the silkworms that it's been made out of their cocoon to be usually killed, and it's not particularly ethical thing to do, even though silk is biodegradable, and in terms of environmental sustainability it is better than, say, polyester, but from an ethical standpoint it is questionable. So using materials that were made some time ago instead of using materials, creating demand for materials that are brand new is a more ethically better option. Now, it's really difficult to find actually. When I had a look, I really struggled. One of the things that I found is that if you go on Etsy and look for vintage silk, what you find is silk that is sold by the meter from old saris. So in a way it is repurposing. Some are more vintage than others. I'll share some with you on the screen to have a look what I mean. And it's, you know, what's available, so a lot of the time they're very colorful. Now, I also found that if you instead of vintage silk, if you go on Etsy and if you look for antique silk, you get more interesting results. Now, of course, they're expensive, but real silk is quite expensive, and so it should be. I think it is such a precious material that making it cheap would devalue it. So it is fair. I think antique silk sounds usually quite old, but you do get quite interesting and very beautiful results on Etsy when you type that, is what I found. So that's an option. Option number 2 is to get remnants, and what that means is if there was a bolt of silk somewhere and a company didn't use it all for their collection, whatever's left in it is not necessarily going to be used. So if you buy it, then you're not necessarily creating demand for any more to be created from that particular type, but you are using up something that may after a while be actually thrown away. I actually found a few different websites which have got remnants, and one of them gives you that for free as long as you pay the postage. I'm talking about Contrado in particular. I have personally used Contrado in the past, collaborating with Bags of Love, which is a company which digitally prints fabric, and you could print your own fabric with your own designs using that. And they've got a lot of really lovely fabrics, brand new fabrics, not vintage or anything like that. But they clearly have a lot of remnants because also you can order different things from them that they stitch in house. and they end up with all these massive offcuts. And so on their website, they'll give you free fabric scraps for upholstery and clothing without charging you for that, just for the postage and packaging. Depending on what kind of crafty things you want to do, this may or may not be an ideal thing, because if you have something that you just want to add a little bit to, that might be interesting. But if you are looking for a more substantial amount of silk, then that might not be ideal. And you might not get all silk, that's the thing. It's just that they do silk and cotton normally, but they also do things like neoprene. So it's a mystery bag, but it is remnants for free that you can use for your project. So it's a bit of a side bracket. I also found the sewing hq.co.uk, which has got remnants under the remnant section for silk. However, some of the silk is not actually genuine silk, it's polyester based, but they do list what's polyester and what isn't. Just you need to pay attention if you go to that one. Now, something that I found really interesting is a type of silk that I did not know existed, which is silk noir or noir. I don't actually speak French, so I can't really pronounce this, I'm really sorry. But I heard somewhere that if someone doesn't know how to pronounce something, it's because they learned it while reading it, so give them a break, you know. Anyway, now this type of silk is made from waste left in the cocoon after the first time of silk production. So that's very interesting. Now, the quality of the silk is different. It's got a different feel to what you'd expect, but it is silk nonetheless, and it is an ethical way of producing silk and using waste resources. So in that respect, I found it very, very interesting, because it's kind of shoots two birds in one stone, which is a terrible thing to use because we're trying to be ethical here. I didn't mean it. So yes, that kind of silk is made from waste left in the cocoon. So I thought that's brilliant. And actually, because it's a different grade in terms of quality, it's also cheaper than the first grade silk that you'd normally look for. So it's something to definitely look into if you want a more ethical kind of new silk. Another thing that I knew about and have actually held in my hand in the past is silk made from hemp. Now, it's not ideal option in a way of, usually it's about 60 to 70% hemp, and the rest is genuine silk, so it's not 100% great, but it does feel really nice. It does feel like silk. Hemp is a material which is incredibly environmentally friendly, and for this reason it is definitely a very sustainable option in comparison to regular silk. It's also 60 to 70% more ethical, but not 100%. Now, on this website, I found that there's silks that are made from silk blended with other type of waste materials. That's an interesting new age kind of thing that we're entering here. It does come at a bit of a high price, but that's probably to do with the fact that it's quite new and unknown, and so the demand for it is not quite as high yet. Hopefully it will be in comparison, but we'll see. Time will tell. I also found a company here in the UK which does produce new silk, so it's not exactly not using new silk, but it's organicsilks.co.uk, and they're very thorough in their transparency on how they produce silk. I believe this would reflect on their prices, but for a very special occasion, like if you're getting married and you wanted new silk, but you also didn't want to compromise your ethics, this kind of company is a good one to check out, I think, because they do let the silkworms hatch, and they've got videos on their website about the process of how they do things, and they do bespoke designs. So Majestic Textiles, I think it sounds like an interesting company. It's worth mentioning that none of the websites that I'm showing you today pay me to do this. I just thought it's because I found this research so interesting after a friend asked me this question, that I just wanted to also share it with you, and I hope she doesn't mind that I do that. I just think it's important that we all know where things come from and what we're buying, and that's why I'm sharing it with you. I hope you have enjoyed this episode, and I hope it has given you some ideas. If you have thought about not using new silk anymore, I hope that some of this has resonated, or if you have wanted to find other more ethical alternatives to new silk, then I hope again that this has been helpful to you. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Like this video if you like it. It all helps in the algorithm and so free. So I hope that I see you in the next video. Until then, stay creative and see you then.